1 month ago, I found myself in a corner of an upmarket party in Sloane Square, London, with Jing, an old friend. We were locked in an argument of food. Jing argued I would find better Chinese food in London than in my hometown of Hangzhou in China, and I was enraged. Recent online posts had mocked Hangzhou as a food desert, and Jing knew the London Chinese food scene was booming. I suggested we take on a challenge, and we shook on it. Now I had to figure out how I was going to prove my point. Before embarking on what seems to me a ludicrous folly, I first need to get a grip on the London Chinese cuisine. For over half a century, Chinatown has been the center of London's Chinese food scene, a story that began long before I arrived in London, and a place most Londoners default to when seeking out genuine Chinese food. Jerry Ho and Desmond Tang meet me in the back of a Taotaoju restaurant on Liso Street.
Hi, Jerry. Hi, I'm Mingjie.
The two of them have worked with Chinatown restaurant for nearly 50 years and have volunteered to be my tour guides for the morning. Before setting off, I asked them about their earliest memories of Chinatown.
Chinatown is like a community for the Chinese people because you got entertainment, you got community, you got Chinese school, and you got cinema, you got karaoke. A lot of entertainment that people just come to relax themselves for the weekend.
We go outside as I want them to show me what has changed in the time they have been working in the area.
When I come in 1976, I'm 16 years old. Yeah, but now I'm 65 already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, weather different, people different.
It's fair to say you witnessed the changes in the Chinatown over the last nearly 50 years, right?
But it's not just the main streets I want to see.
So we're going to this factory. They're providing those Hefan, or the steamed rice noodles, and then for the last 50 years, and then providing all the supplies to all those Cantonese restaurants across Chinatown here, right? That's kind of behind the scene. Oh wow!
It looks that.
Oh, so it's actually a store. People can buy stuff here.
Yeah.
But nobody knows about it.
No, we don't. The restaurant knows.
Oh, the restaurant knows.
Desmond and Jerry are keen to show me the site of Cassie Restaurant, London's oldest mainstream Chinese eatery that opened in 1908, just down the road at Piccadilly Circus.
So what kind of food they serve? Like Cantonese?
Chop suey.
Chop suey.
Yeah, chop suey.
That's the only dish they serve.
Combination of old-fashioned Chinese.
Old-fashioned
Chinese, mainly from Cantonese style.
English Chinese.
English Chinese.
English Chinese, catered to the English kind of palate.
Chop suey came to the UK from the US in the early 20th century, becoming a staple of British Chinese cuisine and shaping how Chinese food was perceived by the British public. The term literally translates as mixed bits, referring to a mixture of meats and vegetables in a thick sauce served with rice or noodles. It is not a dish found in China, but still on the menu of most Chinese takeaways across the UK. We continued the tour through Piccadilly to the site of a Chinese restaurant that opened in 1974 and started a new trend of high-end Chinese food in London.
Yeah, so what is this place? So at the time, if people were eating this restaurant, what kind of food can they get?
Was very classic Hong Kong style because that the main chef is from Hong Kong as well.
Okay.
Very experienced.
Some dim sum.
Dim sum, banqueting, lobster, roasting, whole complete Hong Kong cuisine.
And a roast meat, yeah?
Roast meat.
You focus on the ingredient and as well as...
It looks really, really big. Even now,
very big.
It looks like a department store.
Bigger than that.
Now, how many people can they accommodate?
If you do banquet, they can do 800.
It was this restaurant that expanded Chinese food beyond chop suey to other Anglified Cantonese dishes that were to become the mainstay of the English-Chinese menu for the next 50 years. But recently, things have been changing, as can be seen by the Haidilao now occupying the ground floor of the same building. The restaurant belongs to China's largest hot pot restaurant chain, founded in Sichuan in 1994, and now operating over 1,300 outlets worldwide. It is famous for its customer-first service, playful dining atmosphere, and very different from the traditional Cantonese fare you find across the UK. I bid farewell to Desmond and Jerry and enter the restaurant. I've arranged to meet some London friends for lunch to discuss these changes. On the way to my table, I meet a group out for a walk lunch, and I'm fascinated to hear what they think of the concept.
Hi, I saw you guys are having the hot pot, and I saw you were actually I assume you are Chinese, and you were explaining how to eat hot pot to your friend. Who here are actually the first time having hot pot?
Quite a few. I think Cuisine
Yeah.
the first time, Phoenix is the first time,
Yeah.
the first time.
Oh wow. And then for the first timers, how do you feel about this experience?
We're hungry. It's really something new. Most of us haven't tried it, so it's really good.
Over the past 5 years, London has seen a dramatic expansion in the availability of regional Chinese cuisines. Moving well beyond its traditional Cantonese core, the city's food scene now features a wide range of authentic offerings from Sichuan, Hunan, Shanxi, and Northeast China, alongside the rise of hot pot chains like Dalongyi and Haidilao. To help me understand these changes, I'm joined for a hot pot by Chinese food critic Jia Chen, along with Chen Gong and Eric from Haidilao.
Oh, well, I feel really nowadays, you name a regional cuisine in London, you almost can find a place. And not just to find a place to get that particular dish, is to find a place to get the authentic one, the very delicious one. Now it has been changing. So people started to accept Chinese food, and then the acceptance allow the authentic cuisine to move in, to attract people to try, the Western people to try. So I really see a big jump over the years from mainly Cantonese or westernized Chinese food to now all this regional cuisine and authentic place.
I think the reason Haidilao is different, because we want to have totally different experience. When you go inside and all our staff will greeting you. It's not like a restaurant, it's more like a family, like a home. And when you're sitting at the table, all our waiter or waitress, they can explain you very clearly how to eat, how long you need to cook this food, and how to make best combination for food, for seasoning, to have the soup. Try to give you a unique gourmet experience other than other restaurants in London.
Do you also have a certain percentage of Western customers?
Nowadays, from Piccadilly branch, I think we have 50%, which is Asian customer. I cannot define they are Chinese or any other nationalities. 30% to 40% the local people here, and maybe 10 to 20% the tourists.
I felt I was getting a better understanding of where Jing was coming from when she insisted that London's Chinese food was changing. But before seeking out London's best Chinese food, I wanted to go further back. By chance, I had seen a poster for a lecture on Chinese food in British culture at the Colindale Library in northwest London by American academic Lisa Liu. So I bought a ticket and headed out to listen in. Lisa explained how Chinese food became a British dining staple and how that helped change perceptions of the Chinese since they first arrived as seamen in the 1800s. At the end of the talk, I sat down with her as I had more questions.
Maybe you can give us a brief introduction about what is your talk about today.
I look at the history of Chinese in London, which really starts after the First Opium War. China was open, pretty much. And so you had an influx of people who were coming through Hong Kong via Canton and South China, really. They were coming in on the ships, and they were landing in Limehouse, so at the dock. Our original Chinatown is Limehouse in London, and was there until after the Second World War. But even before that, it slowly started migrating out of that area. British soldiers have come back post-World War II who were in Burma and have a taste for Asian food. So it's a little more adventurous and different for them, and they decide, okay, we'll give this a try. And you just get it increasing more and more and more and becoming commonplace, where today Chinese takeaway is like the #1 favorite takeaway. But for a long time, the Cantonese had sort of the stronghold.
As I made my way back to the center of London, I passed through a small alleyway, and there it hit me.
And you have classic English pubs on one side, another one on the other side, 2 English pubs in the small alleyways, but in between there's 2 Chinese restaurants. And one is from Xinjiang Uyghur restaurant, and the other is from Xi'an Cuisine.
London's appetite for different Chinese food is clearly changing. What was once a multitude of Cantonese eateries all offering similar menus of sweet and sour chicken, chow mein and chop suey is now becoming a more sophisticated mix of regional flavors and spices from all over China. Desmond and Jerry have impressed on me the close links London still has with Hong Kong. And I feel to really understand what is driving these changes, I need to go there. In London, I've witnessed an explosion of new regional authentic Chinese restaurants replacing what once was a Cantonese stronghold. But the links to Hong Kong in the food business are deeply entrenched. So I've traveled here to find out firsthand about how, when it comes to food, the 2 cities are intrinsically linked. To start my journey, I'm on a train out to Tai Po in the far north of Hong Kong to meet the president of Tai Po's 183 villagers, and also the president of London's Chinatown.
Hey Peter, good to see you again. Good to see you again. So it's a full season, just like I saw in London.
Peter Lam has restaurants in London and Hong Kong and has a deep understanding of the links between the two. I started by asking him the role Hong Kong plays in bringing Chinese mainland restaurants into London. He points to bubble tea as an example.
I was the first one to do the bubble tea, 1998. Yeah, but at the beginning, during the 90s or early 2000s, it's from Taiwan. But after the 2000s, there's a lot of mainland brand building up in China, and then they moved to Hong Kong, moved to everywhere.
Peter's family business has been specializing in Cantonese cuisine throughout its 40-year history. He tells me the story of opening a high-end authentic Cantonese restaurant at the Royal China Club in London, only to receive bad reviews from English food critics for not serving Anglified dishes like salt and pepper chicken and chow mein. But things are changing now.
For Cantonese restaurant, maybe in the future we're going back to just doing especially Cantonese style. But at the moment we're mixing other cuisine, right? And I think in the future we'll concentrate on doing Cantonese food. We want to be a professional in Cantonese food.
After the interview, Peter asks the waiter to bring a mix of authentic Cantonese dishes and those that have been Anglified, like lemon chicken, which he still serves to an older community, many of whom have spent much of their lives in the UK. He even imports the dog from London, as he says those who live in the UK prefer it. I'm fascinated by the concept of authentic Cantonese food competing directly with restaurants serving other regional dishes, and want to get a better understanding of what is authentic Cantonese food. For that, I head over to the Michelin-starred Manhole restaurant at JW Marriott Hotel in Admiralty, where Chef Jason Tang has been making waves with his Cantonese menu.
Hello. Hi, I'm Minjay. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Jason starts with a tour of the kitchen, where he explains Cantonese food is made up of 3 elements: dim sum, barbecue meats, and wok-fried dishes. After our tour, I sit down with him to try and dig a little deeper. I ask him how he defines Cantonese food.
因為大概60至70年代咧，好多香港嘅移民係去到世界各地，都會喺 Chinatown 嗰度咧開餐廳嘅。咁就我哋會將譬如香港嘅典型嘅菜式啦，譬如sweet and sour pork 啦，中式牛柳啦 ，and then deep fried chicken 啦，呢一類型嘅菜式帶到去世界各地啦。咁當地嘅廚師就認為啊，呢一類型嘅菜式咧，就係個個都會中意嘅。咁佢哋就會不停咁樣係咁重複咁樣做，但係冇去加入一啲新嘅元素或者一啲新嘅諗法。當而家網絡嘅世界開始豐富咗，啊，大家可以喺 Internet 上面咧就睇到哦，原來中國嘅食物 not just Cantonese foods， 咁但係反而譬如嚟返香港呢個地方啦。我哋作為一個廣東菜嘅廚師，其實香港嘅廣東菜比較特別嘅地方就係我哋由頭到尾都係海納百川嘅，會將嚟自世界各地啊唔同嘅飲食文化咧融匯咗喺廣東菜上邊。
Hong Kong not only sits as a place where business can try different concepts before moving them to the West, but also a place that has developed its own cuisine that fuses traditional Cantonese ingredients and cooking styles with Western influences. Before I head back to London, I wanted to get a better grasp of what exactly Hong Kong cuisine was. For that, Jing had recommended a local food critic, Susan Jung. We meet in a back street of Wong Chai.
Hi, Susan. I'm Minjay. Nice to meet you. That's my colleague, DJ. Yeah.
I just think Chinese people are really resilient and they adapt to whatever environment they are in. So you have American Chinese food, you have British Chinese food, you have, the Chinese restaurants in France have Chinese, Vietnamese, and Thai all on one menu. So they adapt to whatever environment they are in, and they do it because they want to make money.
Susan stops at one Cantonese cha-chan-ten and suggests we go in to try the milk tea, pineapple buns, and chicken pie.
There have always been regional Chinese restaurants in Hong Kong, mostly Sichuan, Quechua, Shanghai, but that was just about it, and they were always tailored for Hong Kong people's tastes, so less spicy, less oily. And then fairly recently, there was an explosion of really, really good, very authentic, very traditional regional Chinese restaurants. And it's been very exciting because you don't get the watered down flavors.
I'm finally starting to understand the fusion of food served in the UK as Chinese and its close ties to Hong Kong. Jing has chosen several top Chinese restaurants in London that I need to try before I travel back to Hangzhou to make my comparison. It's time to go to the airport and get on with the challenge. After spending a week learning about the history of Chinese food in London and a week in Hong Kong to understand the driving forces behind those changes, it is finally time to find the best Chinese food London has to offer. I start my quest back in Chinatown at Songhe Lou Suzhou Noodle Restaurant that has recently set up shop in London.
Wow, look at this. So nice.
Here, I meet manager Joe, who explains how he sets up the restaurant. I'm keen to find the key points I need to look for when defining good Chinese food.
So Songhello has a heritage of around 280 years. So we always wish to share the Suzhou cuisine with the world. And we think it's the right time to let people in London to try the authentic Suzhou food. Now the people are got more knowledge and more willing to experience authentic food.
And then one London.
Yeah, London is a melting pot of different cultures, and it's also the food capital of the world. And London audience, London customers, has the more adventurous spirits to try different kind of food. We try to make it simple. The key point is to make authentic as possible.
I asked Joe to show me the kitchen, and he obliged by asking a chef to teach me to cook my lunch. I can see the attention to authentic cooking methods and the integrity of the ingredients. It sounds simple, but as I'm about to find out, these two factors are difficult to manage when you are 10,000 kilometers away from the source. It is time to go high-end, and for this, I start at London's most famous premium Chinese restaurant, the Hutong on the 33rd floor of the Shard, one of the city's most iconic modern buildings. The restaurant has a spectacular vantage point, with many of London's key landmarks visible from the table. I'm met by Vijay, the restaurant manager, who explains the concept.
It started with Cantonese part, which is the southern China, but then as it became so popular, people started looking at different flavors into the Chinese food, as well as different elements into the food and into the culinary. This is where other regions started playing part. We, as Hutong, are very popular as a Chinese Szechuan cuisine, which is again, spice-based, very totally opposite. So the Cantonese flavors. I went to northern China recently, and I've tasted about over 200 different dishes. What London does is not only keep the authenticity, but same time they make dishes contemporary and always experiment it with new food, which is why people are moving towards it.
I take my seat next to the window as dusk setting across the city, and I'm joined by celebrity chef Ching-He Huang. Ching rose to fame hosting the BBC program Chinese Food Made Easy, and has been at the forefront of the rise of the regional Chinese dishes in the UK. I asked her about Chinese fine dining in London.
Friend, Alan Yao, he was one of the first. When he came on the scene, he really transformed the fine dining, luxury Chinese, cuisine. Because until then, it was still a lot of family-owned restaurants. Of course, you have a Royal China Club, friends from there. But, it hadn't been presented in a way to the West where you would be spending, £10 for hot and sour. It was crazy at the time. But now, if you look at the menus, now people are paying £110 for Beijing Kaoya. The prices have gone so crazy. I mean, from the humble takeaway in the UK to luxury fine dining, it's had a complete transformation.
And what do you think are the reasons that's happening in the recent couple of years?
I think you can see a marked difference in the way that people, the young generation, look to Chinese cuisine. The next generation is much more open and happy to share, about their heritage, and very proud of cuisine, and also trying to express themselves through culinary art. And why not? Of course, because everyone is from somewhere, everyone has a story, a connection. And so people are looking to all of that and questioning their sort of identity, where they're from, and their roots, where their roots are from. And so people are embracing it more than ever.
We are served a tasting menu, fancy Cantonese dim sum alongside Peking duck and spicy Sichuan chicken. Before leaving, I'm introduced to Keith, the Malaysian head chef whose fusion choices I'm keen to discuss.
For me, both of them is traditional and fusion food is important because traditional food is worth to keeping because it's carries for the history and the culture, and for the fusion food is bring more ideas to like fresh way to enjoy the food. So together they is make the Chinese cuisine growing and stay exciting.
Keith likes London for the opportunities it brings and the lack of restrictions you would have working in a regional food restaurant. All the best chefs come to London at some point, he tells me, and we learn from each other. This point sticks with me, so next morning I called one person who might help me understand, Emil Minev, head chef at Le Cordon Bleu School in London. After a quick tour of the school, we go to the rooftop herb garden, where I ask him how Chinese food fit into the London fine dining scene.
If you think of London as a food capital of Europe, Chinese food always play a major role. A few years ago, it was very important to be authentic, it was very important to keep it classy because that's what the public expects. Now it's completely opposite. As I said to you, this revolution starts with Yao-Che, starts with Hakkasan, where they, with Wong, if you wish, they present a very modern, contemporary Chinese food. That's what people are looking for, even though if it's authentic, for a cuisine from different region of China, but something different, something new. It's no longer, if it's not classic Cantonese, that's not going to work, that's gone.
Emil suggested I try some Michelin-starred Chinese restaurants that have experimented with new ideas away from the restrictions of traditionalists in China. Fusing Chinese spices and flavors with other ingredients available in the city. I proceed to the area of London reputed to be the most expensive, according to what I have learned from playing Monopoly. Housed within a 3-store Georgian townhouse on Curzon Street, Mimi Mayfair is imagined as a private residence of Empress Mimi, blending chinoiserie glamour with Georgian sophistication to evoke the golden age of Imperial China. Its interiors are richly decorated with themed rooms across different floors that create an intimate atmosphere. The menu celebrates Chinese culinary traditions from Hong Kong, Singapore, and the Chinese mainland, with a particular emphasis on wood-fire roasted Peking duck, dim sum, and dishes designed for sharing. Upstairs, I meet owner Samyukta Nair, and I start with what feels like an obvious question.
Welcome to Mimi Mayfair.
Thank you very much.
It's so exciting to have you here. Really.
Yeah. And then first of all, I know you are the Indian origin.
Yes.
And why Chinese restaurant?
So first of all, I think Chinese food is very deeply appreciated by the world, but largely by India as well. And I think for us, our community, starting from Indian food, had deep roots, but we also managed to get a great appreciation from the local British audience, which has been quite wonderful for us. And giving those two communities, I think we really thought that being able to bring an experiential dining Chinese restaurant would be something that would be a very on brand for us, but also something I deeply enjoy.
Samyukta grew up with Chinese food in New York and later went to study in Ningbo, China. Mimi Mayfair represents a wider understanding of Chinese cuisine than most restaurants offer.
For us to have that global representation of Chinese food, not just through mainland China, but also its different diasporas, really gave way to A, Chinese restaurant, and B, to Mimi Mayfair. I think what's really important is to be able to understand that it's also this multifacetism of your culture. It's not just the food. Food is a vehicle of culture in today's day and age. And I think what diners want today is not just this fast food, which is amazing and people love it in their own right, but I think they want to see the experience of it, you know? How does it feel? How does it give you a sense of place? And for us, bridging that gap between Imperial China and modern day London to give it that sense of space was very important.
I feel like I'm getting closer to London's advantage and to understanding why so many London Chinese restaurants feature in the Michelin Guide. But before meeting with Jing, who had first challenged me to find London's finest Chinese cuisine, there was one more restaurant I wanted to visit. Hunan is a celebrated Chinese fine dining restaurant in Belgravia, London, renowned for its no-menu concept. Guests simply share their preferences and dietary requirements, and the kitchen curates a bespoke multi-course tasting journey of 12 to 20 small plates. I sit down on a bench with Michael Pan, son of the eccentric founder Mr. Pan, and now the restaurant owner. Mr. Pan took over a Greasy Spoon coffee shop in 1982 away from Chinatown in this upmarket neighborhood, and everyone thought him crazy. Things were tough at the start.
When he first started, we had this very short a la carte menu. It was very compact. It wasn't like other Chinese restaurants where you have hundreds of different dishes. And then he did that deliberately because he wanted to focus on quality rather than quantity. And side by side to that, he had the no menu offering. Back then in the 80s, it was unheard of to not have a menu. So the majority of customers would order a la carte. But my father had a habit of changing someone's order. And so when they got the bill, there was a lot of complaints. People would complain and say, well, I didn't order that. But my father said, well, I gave you a better dish.
Michael had been working in the restaurant since he was 9 years old. But when he finally got to take over the restaurant, he made a decision to stop the a la carte menu and embrace the no menu concept.
By not having a menu, it's amazing because it gives us that flexibility to introduce new dishes, introduce something that you might not have before. So we had a guest, for example, to stay for lunch, and they've never had pig's ears before. Understandably, a little bit anxious about it, but they wanted to try it because we always say to our guests, do you want to try something different? Do you like offal? And if they say yes, then we will kind of like, yeah. So I think that's the beauty of what we do. We like to let you try something different because I think it adds to the experience.
Someone said to me that London offers the best Chinese restaurants in the world, and I wonder what's your opinion on that?
I think it's definitely very diverse. The last couple of years, it's really picked up. But yeah, I would have to agree with that. Yeah, we have a lot of diversity in Chinese cuisine.
It's time to bring Jing back into the discussion. So we arranged to meet before heading over to Jingteng Alley, where Kitty, the owner, has saved us a seat in the corner.
Yeah, I really wanted to bring you to this place.
I can tell why. It's just so vibrant, like it's so crowded with all those kind of,
It's always very busy. It's an extremely authentic Sichuan restaurant right in the centre of London. It's one of my favourite places.
Kitty's husband is a farmer from Chengdu who came to London as a chef 16 years ago. The restaurant prides itself on its authentic Sichuan dishes, and this simple formula has proven a great success. Kitty tells me most of the clientele are Chinese in the early evening, but later it switched to a mainly English crowd. They come for the spice.
The ingredients, is that from here, sourced here, or you sourced?
Most of from here, but the point is the Sichuan food we use lots of chili and lots of the peppers. That will come from China.
Food relies so much on the ingredients, and this will become a key issue as I travel to Hangzhou to complete the challenge. Jing has persuaded me that London has some serious Chinese restaurants, but will I find better Chinese food in my hometown? And if so, how am I going to persuade Jing that I win the challenge? It's time to go find out. After tasting London's finest Chinese restaurants, I returned to my hometown Hangzhou to discover whether the city's best can truly rival London's top Chinese dining. Although I was born and raised here, I have not properly lived in the city for more than a decade. To take on Jing's challenge, I reached out to an old friend Jenny, a food and wine vlogger, hoping she could guide me to Hangzhou's finest restaurants and help me prove that this city can, in fact, outshine London.
Hello! Hey, Jenny! It's so good to see you!
Yeah.
I meet with Jenny outside a residential neighborhood, and she says she wants to show me her favorite Chinese restaurant in Hangzhou. Walking into the narrow alleyways of a local neighborhood, I see clusters of small Hangzhou eateries, but one restaurant stands out. It's so packed that a crowd is waiting outside. Jenny tells me this is Jinzhongbang, a place that's gone viral on Chinese social media and earned a Michelin Bib Gourmand for offering excellent food at reasonable prices.
As you know, Hangzhou is developing fast, and now a lot of hardcore company come to Hangzhou, and a lot of talents come to Hangzhou. Now Hangzhou has a lot of different food from different places of China, but still have a lot of like the local old aesthetic food here.
Jenny also introduces me to the owner, He Zhonghao. Despite his young age, he has already made a name for himself in the culinary scene. With the restaurant's soaring popularity, he is preparing to move into a larger space. He shares with us how he reimagines Hangzhou's classic vinegar fish to appeal to younger diners.
草鱼啊，一些鱼它刺太多，然后它可能会因为现在供不应求的关系，它没有原来老底子那些鱼的品质那么好。那我们就保险起见，就用了笋壳鱼，它算是淡水鱼里面的也算是比较好的鱼了。那它会存在一个肉比较嫩、细嫩的一个口感，然后它就是没有那个土腥味。那我们当时就用了这个鱼。
The next day, thanks to Jenny's arrangement, I meet with Amy Wang, one of Hangzhou's most respected food writers and gourmet critics, at Guiyu Sanfang, a restaurant
that's surrounded by all the auspicious trees,
whose fragrance fills the air. As we sit down, I ask Amy how Hangzhou's food scene has evolved alongside the city's rapid transformation.
For Hangzhou, I think this place become more international nowadays, and we just keep the traditional ways to cook. I mean, the most restaurants, and we also, remain the traditional ways to enjoy the food.
As a Hangzhounese myself, I've always been proud of our city's culinary diversity, from humble street snacks to upscale dining. So when I saw tourists describing Hangzhou as a food desert, I was shocked and irritated. I bring the question to Amy, curious to see how she reacts.
I think if the people really love Hangzhou, they come more, they will know the saying is totally wrong.
Our search for Hangzhou's finest restaurants begin at Jiexianglou, a one-star Michelin restaurant inside the Zixuan Resort by Westlake. Executive chef Yu Bing gives a tour of the space. I'm immediately impressed, not only by the tranquil setting, but by the creativity infused into every dish. Chef Yu runs a monthly chef's club where culinary teams share ideas and develop new concepts. One example he shows me is green mapo tofu, tailored to Hangzhou's lighter, more delicate spice preferences.
杭州的餐饮一直在中国是被大家所尊重。我举几个简单的例子，不管从我们当时在中国迅猛发展的过程当中的连锁餐厅，做的规模最大的以及最好的一些餐饮，都是杭州来做的。在那个时候有外婆家、绿茶、邢白露，就可以数很多，当时都是在中国最有名。
I did not expect this level of innovation before coming back to China. Seeing how Hangzhou chefs reinterpret well-known dishes using local ingredients while respecting their origins convinces me that this city is teeming with culinary talent.
The chef here nowadays, they have the chance and opportunity to go to visit different places. Like the chef here, he's been to almost every single top or high-end Chinese restaurant that we visited in London, and then he has his views. Like in London, despite the fact you have the variety of the cuisines from every part of China, but in terms of high-end, it's still maybe like Cantonese focused or one dish focused, and it won't be as grand or as fabulous as some of the restaurants here.
Later, Amy brings me to another Michelin-starred restaurant, Xinrongji, located in West Hangzhou near Alibaba's headquarters. Originally founded in Taizhou, this top-tier seafood chain has expanded across China and is celebrated for its fresh ingredients and impeccable service.
I've been in Hangzhou for a few days, and I'm already convinced that Hangzhou has better Chinese restaurants compared with London. But the only way to win this challenge is to have Jane to admit it. And for that, I've arranged her to come here. And her plane has just landed, and she can be here in any minute. Oh, hello! Oh, welcome to Hangzhou. So this is my friend Amy.
Hello,
so she's helping me, show me around all those kind of fancy restaurants here
nice.
in Hangzhou. So I can't wait for you to see all of this.
Before visiting our final fine dining destination, Amy takes me out for an authentic Hangzhou breakfast. Here, surrounded by steaming bowls and sizzling pans, I rediscover flavors that instantly bring me back to my childhood. And it's here that I realize Michelin recognition isn't only about luxury. Even simple dishes like handmade noodles or freshly fried dumplings can earn awards if they're truly exceptional.
This is exactly kind of the memories I had when I was a kid. You can get those kind of fried dumplings just in those kind of local stand or vendors. But I think this one is kind of popular. It's now very well known. People would make a long queue to get the dumplings. And here they even say it's a Michelin restaurant, which I don't know, but I can't wait to get some to taste it. I don't think I will have any space for my lunch later.
This breakfast stop shows me the full spectrum of Hangzhou's food culture, a city where traditional street food is preserved and cherished, yet modern fine dining continues to push boundaries. Old and new, humble and refined, all coexist within the same culinary landscape. For one last opportunity to prove Hangzhou's culinary excellence to Jing, Amy brings us to Jing, the one-star Michelin restaurant inside the Four Seasons Hotel Hangzhou at West Lake.
Yeah. And Amy, thank you so much for bringing us to the fancy restaurant last night, and I had a good time. So what should we expect today in this place?
It's a really high-end restaurant here in Hangzhou. If there's only one opportunity, I want to invite you to come. This one is I want to recommend.
And then do you think after the meal she should be convinced that Hangzhou has the best Chinese restaurant than London? So let's maybe try some food and then find out.
Yes.
Here, Senior Executive Chef Wang Yong presents his philosophy. His dishes reflect not only local flavors and techniques, but also the ideas and inspirations he gathers from travels across China and beyond. To him, no matter the setting, whether a humble eatery or landmark luxury venue, the essence of a great restaurant ultimately comes down to one thing: taste.
对一个好的餐厅来说，那肯定它所有的考量都是在里面的。那所以我们可能看到的东西不是一样的，但其实你说在地标建筑或者你在一个地方，可能会故事性会很明确。当然，其实如果是我经营或者我在做的东西，肯定最终的点一定是好吃，无论它是在餐饮馆子还是在一个地标建筑，是你最终的表达，你最终的故事，你所有的想表达清楚的东西，最终都会落在味道上。
After showing Jing some of the high-end Chinese restaurants in Hangzhou, I thought it's time to find out whether she's convinced or not.
I'm really impressed with Hangzhou, to be honest. I haven't visited that many times, and what we've eaten here has been super nuanced. There's such a focus on the ingredients and the local ingredients that they're using, from the fish, the meat, to all the sauces and flavors. So that's really stood out for me.
So, do I win the challenge?
Yes, I think you do in this case. I do think whilst we ate at some incredible restaurants in both cities, the kind of attention to detail and the nuance that I saw the kind of delicate flavors that I've had in Hangzhou is really interesting, it's really surprising, and it's really nice to see this kind of innovation within China on very historic and very traditional cuisine. So I do think London definitely caters towards a more international palate just because of the demographics. It's a cultural melting pot. You have Chinese, you have overseas Chinese, and you have Western people and people from all around the world in the London restaurants. So I think naturally some of those dishes will be a little bit more fusion, a little bit more of a global palate. But I think in Hangzhou, what I've seen so far is such a kind of reverence for the ingredients and like the local way of doing things, whether it's a reinvention or whether it's a twist. I think you can actually taste, you know, the difference with the ingredients particularly. So I do agree, and I agree that you won the £10 as well. So I did bring.
Oh my God!
I did bring it.
Uh-oh.
So fair and square.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Hearing Jing acknowledge the nuance, precision, and innovation of Hangzhou's cuisine feels like a victory, not just for me, but for the city itself. London offers diversity and a global influence, shaped by its multicultural diners. Hangzhou, on the other hand, showcases deep respect for ingredients and tradition, elevated through constant reinvention by talented local chefs. This journey has shown me how Hangzhou blends heritage with modern creativity and how its culinary scene stands proudly on the world stage. And I'm grateful that Jing came all the way here to experience with me.